Hello, dear members of the Drama of Life family. Today, we will bring you an emotional love story. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any meaningful stories. In the grand ballroom of the Grand Royale Hotel in Manhattan, New York, everything sparkled like a crystal palace. White tulle curtains swayed gently in the cool breeze from the air conditioning system, blending with the warm light from hundreds of brilliant chandeliers on the soaring ceiling. White rose petals, meticulously arranged in soft, curving arches, lined the main aisle leading to the altar. Amelia Reed stood there, frozen. Her ivory wedding dress hugged her slender figure, with delicately embroidered lace draped over her thin shoulders. Her caramel brown hair was tied back, a few strands falling softly around her delicate face. Amelia's large brown eyes, once filled with dreams, were now clouded with vague worry. Amelia, a girl from humble Brooklyn, grew up listening to the smell of fresh bread coming from her father's old grocery store. For years, she lived in simplicity, but today she was about to enter a world of luxury she thought only existed in paintings. Today, Amelia was getting married to Lucas Harrington, the golden boy of finance, who had promised her the future of her dreams. But as the soft music played, Amelia's eyes caught sight of her best friend Maya Lewis, who was nervously rushing across the aisle. Maya handed her a crumpled piece of paper and whispered, "I'm sorry." Amelia's hands shook as she slowly unfolded the piece of paper, her fingers frozen in place. The light from the chandelier above made the scribbles on the paper burn into her eyes. One line, simple, short, but with the power to crush her entire world. "I'm sorry. I can't do this." Amelia was stunned. For a moment, all sounds seemed to die away, leaving only the howling wind in her mind. Her legs buckled so lightly that she didn't even realize she was shaking. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed. Each beat was broken, painful as if 1,000 pieces were being torn apart inside. The people around her were still unaware of the tragedy unfolding in the center of the magnificent auditorium. The soft waltz music continued to play, a stark contrast to the storm tearing at Amelia's soul. Eyes followed her with suspicious gazes as she staggered back, clutching the piece of paper as if clinging to something to keep her from collapsing. And then, amidst the chaos, a familiar figure appeared. With a resolute step, a gaze as cold as steel, Ethan Harrington, Lucas's older brother, the cold and ruthless CEO of Harrington Global, walked toward her. In his impeccably tailored black suit, he was like a shadow of power closing in on Amelia, his eyes shining with something unfathomable. Amelia looked up, meeting Ethan's eyes. Those cold gray eyes were unwavering, like a frozen lake that didn't let in a single ray of sunlight. In her still fresh memories, Ethan Harrington had always been a man who made others wary, with a sharp face, a square jaw, and a tall figure that exuded an inviolable majesty. The first time Amelia met him was at a tense family dinner. Ethan had barely spoken the entire time, only occasionally glancing at her with an unreadable gaze. The second time, at the engagement party, he had stood alone at the bar, watching the proceedings silently, like a cold bystander. And now, in the midst of the chaos she couldn't control, the same man was walking toward her. The surroundings blurred. The murmurs of the guests echoed in Amelia's head like the roar of waves. She felt like a small, helpless person in the eye of a storm, her eyes moist with shock, pain, or the sudden appearance. Ethan stopped in front of her. Without a word, he held out his strong hand to Amelia, a gesture so unexpected she could hardly believe her eyes. The crystal light fell on his hand, his fingers long and steady, a silent but powerful invitation. Amelia hesitated, looking at the hand outstretched before her. Everything inside her was tugging at her heart, the humiliation of being abandoned in public, the hurt she had felt from someone she had trusted so deeply, in the confusion of Ethan Harrington's sudden appearance. She could hear her heart pounding wildly, each beat screaming in her tiny chest. Ethan stood there unhurried, his eyes locked on Amelia, deep and sure, as if to say he would not abandon her, no matter what. Behind them, the whispers grew louder, like small knives stabbing Amelia's back. "Don't let them see you fall." Ethan leaned in and whispered, his voice soft but firm. "You don't deserve this." Amelia shivered, her eyes red. In that moment, amid all the chaos and pain, Ethan's words were the only lifeline in the stormy sea. "Let me help you," he continued, his eyes never leaving her. Amelia clenched her trembling hands. She didn't know whether to trust him or not, but at that moment, her wounded pride and broken heart made her reach out to lightly touch his steady fingers. The officiant, an older man with a stern face, looked at Amelia and then at Ethan, his expression filled with confusion. A heavy silence fell over the room. All eyes were on them. But before the hesitation could last any longer, Ethan straightened his back and turned to face the officiant. His voice rang out, deep but authoritative, like a knife tearing through the stifling atmosphere. "If Lucas can't," Ethan stated clearly, "I'll be the one standing by her." Amelia stood there, stunned. Ethan's words echoed in her head like a thunderclap through the noisy crowd. No one spoke up to protest. No one stepped forward to explain. Lucas, who should have been standing beside her, had vanished without a trace, leaving her with a crumpled piece of paper and a broken heart. Ethan stood there, her hand in his. The heat from his palm seemed to give her the last bit of courage she had left. Confusion, pain, shame, and fear, all of them wrapped around Amelia, making her feel like she was suffocating. Ethan's eyes never left her, a steady gaze, not forcing her, but also not giving her any way out. In the midst of chaos, only that gaze was real. Amelia nodded slightly, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. The officiant hurriedly continued the ceremony with trembling hands. The vows sounded faintly like distant echoes in Amelia's ears. She could no longer distinguish between reality and dream. All she knew was that, as the ring slid across her finger and Ethan gently took her hand, a strange feeling welled up. Not love, but a fragile warmth amid the ravaging storm. Amidst the stares and whispers of the crowd, Amelia Reed became the wife of Ethan Harrington, a man she knew almost nothing about beyond his cool exterior and formidable reputation. The first night of their strange marriage began with awkward silence. At the Harrington Mansion in the Hamptons, a modernist building of glass and steel that towered over a deserted campus, Amelia walked in like a stranger in her own world. Everything here was cold, sleek, and alien, like the man who silently guided her. Ethan stopped in front of a large living room, its glass walls opening onto a view of the ocean, stretching out into the night. He turned, his eyes calm but sincere. "You have complete control over this living together," Ethan said slowly. "We can just be roommates, if you want." Amelia couldn't shake off the feeling of uncertainty and unease in her heart. Every time she looked at the ring on her hand, a strange wave would surge through her. It wasn't an ordinary wedding ring. It was the mark of a decision that would change her life forever, a decision she wasn't mentally prepared for. For some reason, Amelia felt the weight of fear weighing down on her. Ethan, the man who had saved her from the humiliation of a broken marriage, was still as cold as ever. Although he didn't force her to share her feelings, his cold gray eyes seemed to be watching her every move, making Amelia's heart clench. Maybe Ethan wasn't as predictable as she thought. When he stood before her at the wedding, it had all been a game. But now within the cold walls of the mansion, without eyes watching her, she felt like she was living in a world completely separate from everyone else. During the first few days of her strange marriage, Amelia felt like a ghost wandering around her own house. She walked silently around the large room, only her footsteps echoing in the long hallways. But those long, quiet days made her feel somewhat at peace. To temporarily forget the stress, she turned back to her favorite paintings. Painting became a place for her to release all her heavy emotions, the only way she could find herself again in a strange world. Ethan kept his promise, always respecting her distance. He didn't force her to talk or participate in his life. Everything continued as a silent agreement. But in Amelia's heart, a question kept ringing. Was this silence a protection or just a growing separation between two strangers? Day by day, life in the strange house became quiet, and although there were not many deep conversations, Ethan's small gestures began to make Amelia feel something different. Every morning when she woke up, there would always be a cup of hot coffee on the table, her favorite kind. The warm feeling from the cup of coffee not only melted the ice in her body, but also touched a hidden corner of her heart. Maybe it was Ethan's way of showing his care in a subtle way. But every time he received that action, Amelia felt that she was not completely alone. Also, late one afternoon, Ethan gave her a sketchbook with a short note, "To help you find yourself again." It was a simple gift, but it contained a subtlety and understanding that Amelia had not previously noticed in him. The feeling of anxiety gradually dissipated, replaced by a new peace. She felt like she could start over, could find inspiration again, and rediscover her passion for drawing, something she had previously forgotten when she was with Lucas. That night, in the large living room, as the two sat together, the dim light illuminated Ethan's face. Their relationship could not be called close, but at least conversations could begin to open new doors. And in that quiet space, Ethan suddenly said something that startled Amelia. "This house is not a home. It is just a stage my father built," he said, his voice slow and sad. Amelia paused, looking into his eyes. The words opened a crack in his soul, revealing a side of Ethan she had never seen before. He seemed not only cold and distant, but also a man trapped in a world he had not chosen, as she had felt lost in her own life. A strange sense of synchronicity began to form between them, though it could not be called complete understanding. Life in the Harrington household is no longer the peaceful days Amelia once imagined. She is still trying to understand Ethan and who he really is, but questions about their relationship are growing. Although Ethan has undoubtedly treated her with sincerity, the hidden things in his family make her feel like she is living in a movie. One morning, as Amelia sat alone in the living room, her phone rang. It was Maya. "I found out something about the Harringtons. Call me." She felt a chill run down her spine. Although Maya had always been a trustworthy friend, what she was about to reveal might not be something Amelia wanted to hear. But at the same time, an irresistible curiosity made her pick up the phone. However, she did not have time to call back. One day, while passing Ethan's office, Amelia accidentally overheard a conversation between Margaret Harrington, Lucas's mother, and Ethan himself. Margaret's words stopped her in her tracks, unable to believe her ears. She scolded Ethan for marrying some nobody from Brooklyn, criticized him for damaging the family's reputation. But what really hurt Amelia was when she revealed that Lucas had only engaged to her for one reason: to save the financially crippled Harrington Corporation. Amelia's heart was broken. The hopes she had placed in Lucas now turned out to be nothing more than a pipe dream. But just as she was about to turn away, something unexpected happened. Ethan spoke, his voice low and resolute. "I married Amelia not just for the family honor, but because she deserves more." Those words were like a ray of light in the darkness. Amelia didn't know how to feel. She wasn't sure if Ethan was protecting her out of love or just duty, but at least in that moment, she sensed a part of the truth from him, that she was worth more than she thought. Amelia had never felt truly alive until she decided to teach art classes for children at a small community center. It was a place where she found joy and connection to the outside world, after living in the darkness of insecurity and brokenness for so long. The children, even very young, had eyes that lit up when they touched the paintings and made their first strokes. Amelia, with her strong love for art, quickly found happiness in inspiring them. There was only one thing that kept her thinking. This community center seemed to be miraculously maintained and developed. Amelia did not know that Ethan was the one behind all this. Even though they were not very close, she always felt the presence of a great force behind it. It was a vague feeling that she could not explain, until one day she accidentally met Ethan in the art class. "You were the one who helped the center, right?" Amelia asked, not really asking for an answer, but more like a statement. Ethan looked at her, his eyes gentle, without hesitation. "Yes, I helped." He didn't need to say anything more, because in his eyes, Amelia read all the sincerity and love he had for this job. She didn't expect that Ethan, who she once thought was cold and indifferent, could silently do such good things. The warmth in his eyes made Amelia's heart flutter. Then one night, when Amelia was very sick and unable to care for herself, Ethan was there. He didn't just put her to bed and take care of her medicine. He stayed, taking care of her all night, making her soup, soothing her when her fever was high, and never once showing signs of fatigue. It was in that moment when the feeling of weakness and need for care overwhelmed Amelia. that she realized something she had never understood before. Ethan was not the cold, unfeeling person she had thought. He was a man with a kind heart, albeit hidden under a strong and quiet exterior. Although Amelia and Ethan's relationship did not start with vows, but with simple gestures and sincere actions, their connection grew stronger. Ethan was not a man who expressed his feelings in words, but the things he did for her, from preparing breakfast to taking care of her when she was sick, were all acts of sincere care and love. There were times when the two of them just sat silently together, watching an old movie or sharing a cup of tea in a warm room. Those simple moments made Amelia feel happy. Their relationship was built gradually, little by little, like the paintings Amelia had painted throughout her life. She didn't need empty promises, just Ethan's presence and sincere affection. As Amelia recovered, something new began to take shape in their lives: the backyard. It was a desolate space, overgrown with weeds and barren of soil, but together they began to plant flowers, tending each one day by day. Each bloom was a new beginning, a sign of a small world that they, quietly but sweetly, were building. But like everything in life, not everything went smoothly. One day Lucas suddenly appeared, his face grimacing, his eyes mocking. "You look happy living pretending to be Ethan's wife," he said, his voice full of sarcasm. Those words were like a slap in the face to Amelia, making her feel pain. Memories of Lucas, the past days, the confused emotions suddenly rose in her heart. Lucas's words were just one of many attacks Amelia had faced since her marriage to Ethan. Rumors began to spread. Tabloids reported that she was a gold digger, using the Harrington brothers' wealth to make her life better. Amelia felt like she was being drowned in a storm of rumors, not only from the outside world, but also from the criticism that Lucas and the Harrington family had directed at her. Amelia felt like she was being pushed into a dead end. Everything around her was falling apart. She tried to persevere, tried to live a new life with Ethan, but the gossip, the contemptuous looks from Lucas and the Harrington family, plus the rumors surrounding their relationship, had begun to wear away at her faith and endurance. Even though she tried to pretend not to hear the malicious words, she couldn't help but feel the alienation from everyone. In desperation, Amelia decided to write a farewell letter. She felt she was no longer worthy of Ethan and did not want to be a burden to him. In her mind, leaving was the only way to give Ethan the peace he deserved, because she believed that he would never be truly happy with someone like her, someone who only brought him sadness and turmoil. Holding the pen in her hand, each word in the letter seemed heavy. Each word she wrote seemed to make her heart ache more. She could not forget the sweet memories, the sincere moments Ethan gave her, but she could not live forever in the torment of the complicated past and present. She wanted him to find true happiness. Once the envelope was sealed, Amelia put it in her bag and walked out of the room. She just wanted to run away. Not a word, not an explanation. But before she could get to the door, a familiar figure appeared. Ethan stood there, his eyes filled with worry and pain. She couldn't believe it. He had found her and read the letter. When his hands clasped hers, the world stopped. "I don't want to lose you, Amelia. I've lost so much in my life. But this time, I won't let you go," he said, his voice choked. Those words were like a knife stabbing into her heart, causing tears to well up in her eyes. Amelia didn't know what to say. Her emotions were shattered. She was ready to leave, but she couldn't leave this man, the one who had dared to face everything, even himself, to protect her. Ethan didn't say anything more, just held her hand tightly, as if he never wanted to let go. Amidst the storm of gossip, amidst the old wounds, they stood there, with nothing but sincere feelings. Amelia felt a new strength from Ethan, and she felt the strength in herself. She understood that despite the wounds, despite the difficulties, they could still overcome if they truly believed in each other's love. And so, amidst the storms, the gossips, and the pressures from the past, Amelia and Ethan chose to believe in the quiet but intense love that had sprouted between two broken hearts. They decided not to give up, but to move forward together.